Welcome back. This is the Adam Messer Show, and I'm your host, Adam Messer. And my special guest today is Jennifer W. Long. And you are an actor, you're a writer, you do like a bazillion cool things.
All creative.
And you're listening to us here on WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. During the break, everybody, got another message from Terry and Darlene. And yeah, they said, let's circle back around to the ex-boyfriend. So for those of you who are like just catching up with us right now, coming listening right now, Jennifer had a movie that she wrote and you didn't direct it, but you produced it, right?
I didn't. I produced executive produced.
Paper Planes 10 years ago or so.
Yes.
And what had happened was
so many bad things.
she had a relationship that they terminated, and then she wrote down all the good moments and made it like these little paper planes, right?
Yeah.
And then you made a movie about that.
I did.
And so, all right, so we got to dig. We got to go back.
Do you really want to dig? Do we want the truth to come out on
there? I mean, it's not me.
Girls, you're so nosy.
It's not me. It's the, you were just talking about how you like Golden Girls. We got to get the dirt. You got to spill the tea.
It was. So what's the dirt that wants to be known? We want to know about.
I think they want to know like what had happened and then what happened next.
First,
so why did you break up first of all?
I didn't. It was. I love how I'm being like this person. It was actually a woman.
Okay.
Throwing it, bomb dropper.
So your girlfriend dropped you?
Yes, she wasn't even my girlfriend. She just kept. It was weird. Like the gods were like the universe. Cheesy word again. Just kept like bringing us together, and then we'd come together, have like this explosive romantic moments. Can we say the S word on that?
No,
yeah, okay, cool.
Let's not talk
That's okay.
About that,
we do, yes, romantic
escapades.
Yeah. And it would just be like the mind-blowing romantic escapades.
Right.
And then she'd get all heady and like disappear, and she'd be like, I can't do this, or it'd be too much. But somehow, some way, the world kept like popping, the universe kept putting us back
crossing
together.
paths.
Totally.
Right.
So, and she very much believed in, manifestation. I was a big fate believer, and I still am a huge fate believer. You know what I'm saying? So fate.
Since we're talking about our beliefs.
Yeah.
Actually, I believe in Jesus and I believe in God, and I believe that everybody is put in your path for a reason.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think everybody's entitled to their beliefs. I believe that everything in your life, have you ever heard of discernment?
Have I?
Have you?
I don't know. Have I? I don't think. Well, give me.
Discernment is like knowing.
Okay.
Right. So discernment means knowing, but I like to pray for discernment because, like we were talking about, when I meet somebody, I can kind of make decision.
Yeah.
I can size them up and judge. Like make a judgment call. That's discernment.
Okay.
So when somebody reveals themselves to you,
got it.
Yeah, that's discernment. And so I feel like there's a lot that we don't understand in the world.
Oh, for sure.
And there's a lot that, we're directed, like you're talking about manifestation. Like The Secret. You ever heard of The Secret?
Yes,
so,
I have, unfortunately.
That's kind of like manifestation.
Yeah, that was the big joke in my film, in my first film, was just like, is it fate? Do we manifest and create our own reality, or like does the hand of fate guide us and take us where we need to
do you believe in predestination, or do you believe in free will?
I fully believe in reincarnation. This is a whole
but that wasn't
deeper
my question.
Level. What was the question?
My question was,
you're so bossy, Adam. Stop yelling at me.
I'm pinning you down here.
Do
you believe in predestination, or do you believe in free will?
Oh God, that's so complicated. I definitely believe. Is that even the same thing?
No.
Isn't free will? I can't. This is a whole different conversation.
See, predestination is like no matter what you do, it will always be the way it is. It will
always be the way it is. Then
and free
definitely.
Will is you make choices and it changes what will be.
Okay, because when I hear free will, I think like, well, God just lets us do whatever we want to do.
Well, that's the thing. To me, free will is the ultimate form of love because, for example, like they talk about the bird. Like if you love a bird, let the bird go. The bird will come back to you if the bird loves you. right? That's a bird's choice. But if you force the bird to stay,
Yeah.
the bird will escape as soon as it has an opportunity.
Yeah, but sometimes that bird, man, that little birdie keeps flying in that same little window stupidly.
Well, I mean, we all make
over.
mistakes.
Sometimes we make the same mistake
We
like
all make
55
mistakes.
times.
You could. But see, I think everybody, there's a reason why people meet. I feel like there's a
For
reason
sure.
why you are in my life at this moment,
Of
and I'm in
course.
your life at this moment.
Of course.
And there are people listening and not listening, or whatever.
Yeah.
People will listen later
Yeah.
on. And I feel like that is such an important part of like what makes us.
Yeah.
You know, like our overall makeup, because this moment that we're living in right now is a representation of everything that we've lived through in our entire life up until this very moment. And then moving forward, it's the same thing. You know, it's a representation of, you know, what we've lived through and who we are, and, you know, our thoughts. And so that's just my philosophy on things.
It's all good. We're to each their own, right? No, I definitely do believe. Look, if you're meant to get from point A to point B, you will get there somehow, some way. You know.
When you're talking about manifestation, though, tell me what you mean by that.
God, I hate that word with my heart and soul. It
So
drives
that's not
me
what you believe in?
bonkers. Not to some degree. No.
Or is it that you just don't like coining that term?
I just don't like. I don't like the followers that come with the coin of that term. You know
So
what I'm saying?
I know what you mean, because there are people that, like, for example, like The Secret.
Yeah.
You know, that's an example of it. There are folks that they skew or they perverse things. You know, and I think that's what happens when you get like. So, for example, being a Christian, you get folks out there who are the Bible thumping, you know, hell and brimfire.
Oh, yeah.
And they're the ones that scare away like the non-Christians.
Because it's scary.
It is.
Listen. I think Jesus, whether it happened or not, whatever, to each their own, right? He was a nice guy.
You get that with you. What I'm saying is you get that with every kind of system.
Yes.
You get the radicals. You know, and you get the folks that are like, you know, the bum, 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 bum,
Yeah.
you know, and like there is no off for them. And a lot of times
There
what I've
really
found
isn't.
are
Yeah.
the folks that are new to something are the ones that are like the go, 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 go.
Yeah.
Because they're like, they've been looking for something. They've been looking for something to believe in. And they're like, oh, yeah. They're the fire and ice of it.
Well, it's the masses, right? There's a lot of
Right.
lost people in this world. Someone's got to
Right.
herd all the sheep, you know? I mean, there's a lot of sheep. There's one sheep herder. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, so I'm not the type, if I see everyone going left, then I'm going right.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
My son was laughing because I do that. Like if I'm like a leather bomber jacket guy in a sea of jean jacket wearers.
Yeah,
You know?
for sure. Me too. I've always done my own thing. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And look, religion serves its purpose, man. I think people need to be controlled to some degree.
Well, I don't believe that people should be controlled. I really don't. I think it should be an individual choice on what you want in your life. And that's, like I say, free will. I think that's the ultimate, you know, freedom is like you choose what you want to do. You choose your path of what you want to live and what you want to believe and how you want to live your life. I don't think that collectively, you know, a person is smart. Collectively, people are dumb. You know, people make mistakes, you know, over and over again. You know, and we've seen it throughout history over and over again.
For sure.
You know,
100%.
but an individual person is intelligent and they're smart, you know, and they can make good choices. But when they get the herd mentality, like you were talking about with the sheep, groupthink, you know, that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Listen, that's just the way this world is. I mean, you know, I am a firm believer in reincarnation. There's not and karma.
Yeah.
And, you know, what you do, the tables always turn.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. You will always, you think you're not going to be
Whatever-
sitting in that
Yep.
chair. Trust me when I tell you
Yep.
that table is going to
it
turn.
always comes around.
Whether it be this lifetime or the next lifetime or whatever, you will know what it's like to be in that
Well,
hot
I think,
seat.
yeah, I think if you do good things come to you. And if you do bad things come to you.
Well, sometimes you can do good things and have bad things come to you, and those bad things teach you
suffering.
incredible
Yeah,
things.
you learn a lot through suffering.
Absolutely, you grow a lot
Yeah,
through suffering.
yeah.
I think it's about the growth more.
So back to
Yes.
with the suffering. You obviously, when you know the breakup happened,
Yeah.
you were so moved by it that you wrote all these things down.
I don't even think, I think I was just meant to because it was my path,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, I don't even think about that. God, I've dated so many people at this point in my life. I mean that in like the nicest way, but it's like, there's so many times I look back on my life and I'm
But
like,
this one time,
it just inspired that.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people just come in and
like a season of your life.
it totally, you
Yeah.
know, it just and I'm glad it did. But do I ever think about that person? Oh my God, I completely forget about it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I forget
Yeah.
about the fact that I even wrote and made a movie about, you know, that whole thing. But
It just happens that we're talking about it today because of the topic.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and since you got some nosy listeners, it's
They're
all
inquiring
good.
minds.
But they're like, oh, that makes
Yay.
sense. But yeah,
Oh
you
no,
know,
Terry and Darlene are like the best.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
like awesome people.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. Nosy girls. No, it's all good. You
Terry's
know?
a guy, by the way.
Is it Terry? Oh my God, I thought Terry was a woman. I'm sorry. I'm
There
sorry,
you go.
Terry.
They're husband and wife.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
No, it's okay because
They're like, oh.
that's actually a great example though
Yeah.
of like, you know, preconceived notions.
Yeah.
You know, like we have this thing in our head, you know, and that's a great.
You know what I love, Adam? I love the fact that you were like, oh, we want to hear about the ex-boyfriend. I was like, oh, actually, it was a woman. You're like,
I said the ex.
no, but it's funny. You were
Yeah.
like, by the way, I'm a Christian. Right after that.
No, you were talking
was
about
like,
manifestation, and I was
in
like,
short,
my belief is
I'm going to hell.
No,
I know.
not
I
at
love
all.
it. I had to
Not
mess
at
with you
all.
there. I had
Not
to
at all.
totally be
I-
like,
actually, I don't. I don't try to judge people.
no. It's hey, I
You know,
love
the way
to
I
judge
look at
people.
it is,
judge
you know, honestly, I think that Jesus didn't say, you know, don't love other people. He said love other people.
Yeah.
Right. So that's not. I think people that don't understand, because I was an atheist for like 18 years.
Really?
Yes, I was. Let me do a station ID, and I'm going to tell you the dirt on that. So yeah, you're listening to WRULP Savannah. You should see her face right now. Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. So just to clarify, when you were talking about manifestation, I was just talking about my belief system.
Yeah.
Not as a way to judge you.
Of course.
But
I was making it funny.
You know, it was funny, but it's so typical though. Like people, like I said earlier, the hellfire and brimstone Christians that, you know, they're like, oh, you know, I don't agree with your belief system, so you're going to hell.
Yeah.
I don't. It's like, no, that's not what the Bible says. It's
Yeah.
not what Jesus taught. But yeah, I was an atheist for like 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a lot of bad things happen to me when I was younger, and I was like, you know what? How can I? There is no God. If these things happen to me and I wasn't a bad person, how could these things happen? And then how could there be a God when all these things happen in the world and all, you know, these bad things? What, you know, like a kid gets cancer, you know, a mother dies on a train, you know, wreck or whatever. I mean, how do these things happen? You know. And so I was an atheist. I was like, oh, there's no higher power in the world. You know, everything is science, and you know, the universe is just.
Oh yeah, no.
And so it was really strange. But I was never one of those ones that was like, oh, you know, I'm going to pick apart your belief system, because I feel personal freedoms. You have the right. You know, we're born in the U.S. We're born with the right, and I'm sure Canada has similar stuff, but you have the right to religion.
Well, free will, right?
Well, no, that's different. But you have the right to believe whatever you want to believe
Yes.
in your religion. You have that right.
Of course.
Part of our
100%.
Constitution here.
Absolutely.
And
as long as you're not like strapping bombs to your body and blowing up other people, I don't care what you believe.
yeah, you could believe that that's right to do that, but you don't have the
That's-
ability
yeah.
to act on it.
Yeah,
right.
it's-
You know,
yeah.
you're not allowed to do that. Like,
Yeah.
I could believe like you know, whatever I want to believe.
Yeah.
But I'm not allowed to, you know, break the law.
Yeah.
You know, and hurt other people and
Yes.
that kind of thing. But so yeah, I was an atheist, and then I had a couple of friends of mine, and it's so crazy because I was actually talking with Terry and Darlene last night about this, but and I can't believe I'm talking about it on the radio because I've never talked about it with anybody else before, like publicly. But yeah, I had a couple of friends. I worked at a college, and they would always ask me to go pray with them, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
No, for like 6 months.
N-O.
Yeah, it was like no. And it wasn't an angry no. It was just more like an annoyed no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of like, no, I've already told you no a million times. You know, stop asking me.
Yeah.
But they continue to ask. And one day I was like, okay, I'll go. And I mean, I just kind of broke down, and the only prayer I could remember was like the Our Father. And so I started praying the Our Father, and I just felt this flood come over me and like this weight lift off of me.
Yeah.
And, everybody's got their own experience.
Of course.
Right. But that was my experience. And I was like, this is what's been missing in my life. This is something that, like searching for a purpose or whatever. And everybody's different. Everybody has their own, thing that's right for them. Like you believe in reincarnation and karma. And
I do.
Yeah. So you have your own belief system.
Yeah.
For me, that point in my life changed how I felt about a lot of things. Because one, I was an atheist, and one of the arguments that atheists say is like, oh, well, a lot of like the herd mentality or the, not educated, or it's for the masses, religion, organized religion or whatever. And I agree with a lot of those points, but I have 2 master's degrees and an undergrad. So I have a lot of education. I have a lot of experience managing and leading other people. And, in general, I just have a lot of experience doing volunteer work and things like that. And the only conclusion I can come to is that I believe in this, but I don't have the right to infringe on other people.
Yeah.
And I don't like infringing on other people.
Yeah, no.
And I don't like to proselytize or, to preach, but it's so weird because I think it all influences your choices.
Listen, God, there's so many. My father was really good in that sense because I think when I was a kid, and I think he really saved my spirituality. And look, there were pros and cons to my family, big time, lots of cons.
And your dad was the artist, right?
Both my parents were. Yeah. He was the painter, and I mean, he didn't do that as a career. And then he ended up working.
Oh, I don't do my art as a career. I actually do electrical work.
Yeah,
I have to pay the bills.
Yeah, no, for sure. But my father, I think, was the first person who was just like saved my spirituality when I was like 12, 13. You know, and he was great that way, and he was really private about.
How did he do that though?
I was just happened? Like, God hates me. He's like, why would God hate you? You know what I'm saying?
You're such a perfect individual.
Look at me. I know.
Person.
Well, it depends on who you ask. You ask exes.
I think you're a beautiful person.
Listen, there are people in this world who hate me, and there are people in this world who love me.
I tell you why I say you're such a beautiful person, because I just actually told my friends last night, the same ones we've been talking about, Terry and Darlene. I just told them last night the same thing, that there are people in this world that love me, and there are people that hate me, and they hate me for no reason other than they hate me.
Oh no,
so
no, people
right
have reasons. Trust me, they have reasons. But what do you?
Well, they have their own reason, but like if they don't know me, how do they hate me if they don't know me?
Especially as an artist, the one thing you really need to know is jealousy. That can be part of it. It's their own stuff. Sometimes you just mirror things back to people, man, and they like to see. They don't want to see a part of themselves. It's a whole. It is
crazy,
thing, man.
Yeah, it is really crazy when you mirror somebody's behavior.
And then they get all angry and they hate you.
I could give an example.
Reason.
I had a boss that they said something really nasty to me, and then like the same day, I had the opportunity to say it back to them.
Yeah.
And they got really angry with me because I said it back to them. I said, well, those are your words.
People don't like the taste of their own medicine.
Those were your words, not mine. I just, gave you back what you wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And he got so mad.
No. Hey, man, people are the way they are, I just kind of
I'm kind of an outspoken person.
Big time. Well, as an artist, look, at the end of the day, especially if you're willing to put your art out there, there's going to be people who hate it. Yeah. Like, man, have you ever seen, like, the YouTube trolls? Like,
oh, yeah.
You go down on that.
Internet
and the YouTube trolls are like the worst.
Yes.
But YouTube has like a different kind of troll where it's like, wow, you really have no life.
It's crazy how many of those folks would not dare say it in your face
for sure,
because they don't have any kind of courage.
Yeah. And some people got to hide behind their laptops, and their cell phones. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy the amount of people I've met who, like, you confront them in person, and then they get back and they get on their Facebook Messenger and they're like, I'm gonna write a 15 paragraph I hate you or what. Well, why couldn't you say that to my face?
Oh my gosh, there are people on my Facebook right now that are friends with me on Facebook that are my little haters.
Yeah.
And I will post little messages. I'll post little love notes to them sometimes. I'll say, I love you, hater.
Yeah.
You know why? Because I just think it's funny. I mean, like, if you don't like me, why are you on my Facebook?
Yeah. Well, people just don't have lives.
And there's some folks that they will reply, like they want to be contrarian to everything I say. I'm like, well, if you don't like what I have to say, just leave.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Well, that's why I like Instagram better. I
Yeah,
mean, there's
Instagram's
so
pretty
much,
cool.
It is. I
I
mean,
love it because it's like photo based.
exactly. And it's like food,
Yeah,
design.
yeah.
It's all the cool, fun stuff. That's why I much prefer Instagram. And I
Yeah.
know they're owned by the same company now. Yada, yada.
They're two different things,
It's,
though.
the evil of what is. But yeah, good times.
So we were talking about the X and then the movie, and like really it was not really a person that you were dating per se. It was someone that was just you kept crossing paths with.
Yeah.
And you'd have like these little romantic interludes.
Inspiration, right?
Yeah.
It's what inspires it. So then the story gets written and made and written, and then that gets tossed around, and everyone's like, oh my God, we love this script. Cool. Did somebody want to give me some money to make it? No.
Yeah.
And I think I'm such a stubborn person in that sense where I'm like, I don't want anybody else's money. I'm an independent woman, Now I'm like, no, give me money to make my next film.
I'm coin operated.
please,
Coin operated,
exactly.
please,
I'm like,
please put money in the purse.
Well, next film, there's no way it'll cost too much money. It's not something I want to, put myself on the line for. But I guess now you really want to get to the juicy stuff, which how did it get
I want
ruined?
to circle back around. Before we get to that part, because it's like
Yes.
4:20. We got another 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes. But I want to ask more about when your dad saved your spirituality. Like you were like 12 or 13. What happened?
That's about.
You're like, God hates me. That's what you said earlier.
What
did
he
he
was like,
do?
who told you God hates you? And I was like, well, just God hates people, and he was like, what? It's just, it was a whole thing.
Were you having like, I don't want to pry.
Yeah.
But were you having like, were you having those feelings like, because a lot of people are just like, oh, God doesn't love, gay people or lesbians.
Oh, well, there's a lot
And
of
that's
those
not
people.
true.
Yeah.
That's not true at all.
I know that's not true.
But,
Yeah.
was that like something going through your head at that point?
Definitely. I think when you're, young and all that
people
kind of stuff.
get that, they hear that.
So sad.
Hellfire and brimstone people again.
I know.
Like they're like, oh, God hates you.
I know.
No, that's not true. God loves everybody.
I know. It's just so sad that is the case. Yeah. So my dad really, and my mom was like the witchier one, like my dad would like pray in
Eastern
silent.
European, Serbian
Oh my
style.
God, like gypsy, no, because gypsy was like a bad thing but I mean, my mom was like super, she was into the paranormal, and she was like, there's something out there.
My mom's maiden name? You want to know what that is? Rom.
Rom?
Like Roma?
Okay.
Rom.
Are you Italian?
No.
What is Rom?
Rom, the Roma people.
Okay.
The gypsies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so like it's so weird because the only story that I know is, as far back as I can tell, is that my grandpa Roger's family came to the U.S. in the early 1900s. And like I can't trace them back any further. And so, but I know a lady who's Roma, and we were talking about the Rom name, and it's like, okay, those are the Roma people. Like anybody with that kind of name, it's they were Roma. So like Rom.
Okay, got it.
Like,
the
gypsy culture, gypsy people.
Yeah, it's.
And so I don't know, but the only thing I can think of is like, okay, they came over here in the early 1900s. There's no like records before that for the Rom name that I can find. And so I've always wondered, like, there's got to be some kind of connection there. Why there's a reason why you can't go any further back. And why would somebody pick Rom as a name?
Yeah, interesting. I like it.
Yeah,
though.
they wouldn't have picked Rom as like, they would have picked, like, if they were trying to make a fake name, it would have been some kind of English, like Smith or something.
I dig it. I dig Rom though. I dig it.
But your mom was more like a.
She was like the witchier one. Like she's just very superstitious. Like and my father was a little bit more. I wouldn't call him religious. Neither of my parents were like super hardcore religious. But I was raised like Armenian Orthodox, because my father was Egyptian Armenian. So, there's a lot of that going on. But then I got hardcore, Jesus loving crazies in my family too. I think everybody does, right? So it's like, my parents were really good that way. They were like, whatever you believe in is whatever you believe in. Keep it very private. And I do. I'm very private about my spirituality. It is something I very rarely talk about.
I've never talked about it publicly.
Wow.
Yeah, this is the first time.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel kind of special right now.
You are special. I told you, you're a beautiful person.
Thank you.
It's like, I don't know. It's weird because I was talking to my friends last night, and the conversation, we were just, I actually called my friend because I like to draw and I like to do stuff like that. And Friday I went to a school, Guyton Elementary, and I did a presentation about a children's book that I wrote called Bill the Long-Necked Dragon.
Oh, cool.
For these third graders for Mrs. Jordan's class. And it was just awesome. It was so much fun. I wrote the book a couple years ago and I did a presentation at Richmond Hill. And so she had asked me if I would come out and talk to the kids about writing and that kind of thing. And so I was talking to my friend because he has a comic book series called the Steve Range Comics.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, Mad Magazine?
Yes.
Okay, so think of Mad Magazine, kind of like that. And then he's got a kids one that he did called Professor Macaroni.
Okay.
And so I was talking to him. I was like, I want to do some more of these kids books, and I think your Professor Macaroni would be really cool. And the school asked me if I'd come back out again. And I was talking to him about, hey, would you be interested in working together and, doing something? And, because he's put out a bunch of comic books. And I'm like, okay, well, I'd like to do something similar. The Bill the Long-Necked Dragon was like a little storybook, story illustration.
Yeah.
So I wrote and illustrated it or whatever. And then we got to talking. I don't even know how we got on the subject, but we got to talking last night. And then that same story about how I was an atheist, I was talking to them, and I don't ever talk to people about it.
Yeah.
I don't ever talk to anybody about it. I don't push my religion on people. I just feel like you are entitled to believe what you want to believe.
Of course, it's crazy because my cousin, who I always laugh at him now, he was hardcore religious and super Christian, and then now he's like a hardcore atheist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was like hardcore in it. So I always laugh, and I'll be like, "Hey, remember that time when you believed?"
Yeah. Well, the Hellfire and Brimstone folks, they're Christian, right? But they're not. I feel like that those folks that are, like the radical, outspoken folks are the ones that, taint the image for, for folks that don't know, or they wouldn't know anything, like they've never read the Bible, or they've never, really go to Sunday school or anything like that, never been to church. Like if I was an outsider and I saw that, I would be like, no, I don't want to be anywhere near that craziness.
No, of course.
And I think that's a big turnoff for folks.
Well, I think that's a lot of people like that have a lot to hide.
Yeah.
So
let me do the station IDs real quick here. You are listening to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul.
This portion of WRUU Savannah Sounding programming is brought to you by listeners in the 2020 Savannah Music Festival, presenting Americana artists Jason Isbell and the 400 Unit, Mandolin Orange, Balsam Range and Third Time Out, Sarah Ja Rose and Madison Cunningham, Leo Kotke, Amethyst Kia, Bruce Hornsby and the Noisemakers, and more. Information at savannahmusicfestival.org.
You are listening.
There we go. All right. So this is the Adam Messer Show, and we've been talking with Jennifer W. Long today. Thank you so much for being here, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and okay, so we have been going full gamut here today with creativity and belief systems, and like you were talking about how your dad kind of saved your spirituality when you were a preteen teen.
Just teaching me that God doesn't hate me.
Yeah, God can't hate you. God never hates anybody.
No, I don't know the God energy source that,
Well, you can name whatever you want.
Of course.
Like people call a greater power, or whatever. How could anything that, like, for example, if you have children or if you ever had kids, or let's say you have a cat, right? You have a cat, right? Or you have a neighbor's cat that you love.
The neighbor's cat that comes over. Yeah.
Well,
my
you love
friends
this
are
cat
like,
though, right?
He's your cat. He loves me.
Right. When you have that bond, you can never hate something like that. And when you create something, you can never hate something like that.
There are moments he sprayed on a piece of furniture the other day when he was at my house. There was a moment of hatred, let me tell you that.
Well, you can hate the situation. You can hate like the act. You can hate the behavior.
Yes.
And hate is such a weird word for me because it's like hate is like the antithesis of love.
Yeah, but
and we're not put on this earth to hate. We're here to love other people.
I'm full of all kinds of crazy. Yeah. So there are moments where I get really angry and I get really hateful and I get really loving and passionate.
Feelings. Why shouldn't you be angry or why shouldn't you feel anxiety or why shouldn't you feel love? Because they're feelings. we're emotional creatures.
We're human beings.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm all about the feelings.
And I think that's part of like creativity.
I love the feelings.
I do. I do too. Like you were talking earlier about like we like totally different types of films.
Totally shows.
Like
and it's all
different
good.
shows and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, have you heard of this? And you're like, huh?
No.
And you're like, hey, have you heard of that? I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, right.
But, I think it's cool because that's what it takes. It's like you have to have a lot of different, like there's a lot of flavors out there in life.
Totally.
So why not enjoy it?
Sometimes I like to stick to my chocolate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's weird. Sometimes it's like you get into whatever you get
and
into.
there's like all kinds of chocolates.
That is true.
There are a lot of different
That
chocolates. I'm
is
like a chocoholic too.
Give me a good Kit Kat
Nutella.
bar and I'm happy.
How about Nutella?
Who doesn't love Nutella?
I'm like, I saw, this is no joke. I was at a grocery store yesterday and they put the little advertisements on the front of the basket sometimes.
Uh-huh.
Guess what they had?
What?
Pancakes with Nutella.
Oh, I've seen that before.
And I was like,
yeah.
This is just wrong.
Have you had like a cream puff thing? It's like a pastry with Nutella in it.
I have not had one like that.
Didn't they make donuts? I think didn't Krispy Kreme have that at one point?
So that to me is kind of torture because I actually am type 2 diabetic.
Oh, are you?
So I have to watch my sugar intake.
Oh, yeah.
And I love Nutella, but Nutella has like enough sugar to kill me.
Don't they have sugar-free Nutella at this
No,
point? It's 2020.
no.
We demand a Nutella artificially sweetened.
It probably wouldn't taste the same though. It's like
It
Mountain
would.
Dew, like the Diet Mountain Dew to me will never taste like real Mountain Dew.
Oh, maybe some vegetable glycerin. Have you ever had that stuff?
No.
It's like 0 calorie. It's good. Listen, for a diabetic, it won't affect your body like sugar. It's cool. It's not bad for you.
I moderate it, but
Yeah.
so all right,
Yes,
we've
sir.
got to get the rest of the story
Okay, cool.
in. All right, so
middle. Let's talk about how the film got demolished.
Yeah. All right. So we've got like another 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, let's do it. I can crank it out on that.
All right.
Sometimes directors think that just because they're going through a divorce, they can show up on set high on Percocet.
What?
Yeah. And they think that, direction
What?
is, okay, great job. Let's do it again. Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really heartbreaking. And then it was like threats of lawsuits. It was like, man, I got.
This is for a 15-minute film?
Yeah, it was really brutal. I ended up firing her, didn't end up paying her because she didn't do her job. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Breach of contract type stuff?
Yeah, but the great thing at the end of all that, which was really hard. Look, I cried every day, no joke,
Yeah.
for almost a year.
Wow.
Maybe more. It took us 2 years in post to pull because I had a film that I have a movie that doesn't look anything like the script. They're two completely different projects, which is so heartbreaking. As a here you are, imagine you spend 7 months, you hear these voices and you feel that magic and like you listen to it for the first time in 30 years, and then you finally start doing it and you work so hard to pull the money together to make it and the crew and it's like all those cool magical things and someone comes in and just goes rip, 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 rip. Boom, here you go. Now you deal with it. It was
A Frankenstein.
oh my God. And it's
Yeah.
still to this day. Like that's why
Frankenstein's
you
monster.
can't pull up the film anywhere when people are like, oh my God, the trailer looks amazing. And they're like, where can we see the movie? I'm like, in the trash can.
Wow.
It's gonna be one of those things where go ahead.
I was going to say there's a lot of, I think, power and closure in sharing failure.
Oh, for sure.
There are
God,
so many
yes.
folks out there that are afraid to
try
share
anything. Yep.
Well, they're afraid to share when they mess up.
Oh,
And I'm listening to you
So
talking about
important.
this, and I can see how, I can see it, and I'm sure people listening they can hear it in your voice,
Yeah.
and just to share that with other folks and get that
Yeah.
off your chest.
Yep.
Like I can see the anger in your eyes, and I can see like the pain.
It's still,
That's, like,
man. It
right
took me-
there on your
It really
lips.
messed me up.
Yeah.
It messed me up real bad. Like it messed
Yeah.
up my health. Could you imagine like crying every day? Like how are we going to be able to? And Josh, my partner now, my film partner now, who's wonderful in California, who became a very good friend of mine. He was the one who ended up editing it.
Right.
And he was like, Jennifer, he was like, we are going to pull this out of the fire somehow. He was like, the performances are still solid. Like you have really good chemistry with your co-star.
Did they just not follow script, or
She was just high as a kite, man.
Wow.
She was just high as a kite. Is there something?
and by then it was too late to really
couldn't-
redo.
It's crazy. My production designers, who are amazing,
Yeah.
my production designer was like, I can't believe you just stood there and said nothing. Like, because, so many of my actors were naturally coming to me to ask me for advice. So the director at the time was like, you remember something. When we get on set, I'm the director. And I was like,
I was going to say it probably sounded to me like a case of you were not confident in that role,
no,
and
God.
you extended a level of trust, even though you knew it was wrong, even though you knew it was like, this is a train wreck, because when
I
somebody
knew
shows
from
up
the get-go.
high and, messing, you're like, go home.
You know
Just
what it's
go
like?
home.
You know what's interesting? Speaking of like religion and all that stuff, it's interesting because before I made this movie, my friend said, "Why are you using this director?" I said, "Because I really want her DP, her director of photography, who's Danny's wonderful human being, wonderful." And I just wanted to work with him, and I had sleepless nights before we shot this thing. And that voice in my head was like, "What are you doing?" Like, no, she's not the right person. But it was kind of like, in the sense of when Jesus knew he was going to get crucified, like the night before, where it's like, I know I'm like crucifying myself here, I know I'm going to but it was so necessary for all the other things to happen in my life, because I really think with the next project, I'm going to write and direct it. There's no way I'm going to let someone else like take my child and rip its limbs off in front of my face and then hand it to me again. And so many people have always said, oh, you're the director. And I was like, I'm not the director. And I think the universe in a weird way was always like, you're a writer, So we'll see. I mean, next project, it's a matter of getting the crew together properly. It's a matter of finishing the project too.
I think there's a magic to beginning something, and I think there's a magic to finishing it.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Like there's just this power of being able to start something and then actually seeing it through to completion.
Yeah.
You keep talking about the next project. What's that? And I mean, you're not going to tell me the name of it.
But
is it a film or is it a story?
It's a full
or
well,
what?
it's crazy you mentioned a kid's book because my third project will be a kid's book.
Okay.
Now, have you ever seen Paranorman or Coraline?
Coraline, yes.
Yes. So I love that stop motion
I
animation
love
style.
Neil Gaiman's writing. Actually, I'm reading Good Omens right now.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know Good Omens.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Talking about love stories. It's on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
It's 6 episodes. It's a BBC film.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yes.
I'm reading the book. I watched the series, but it is incredible.
Okay. Well,
I mean, like,
yeah.
it's incredible.
Yeah. The series, was it good? It looked good. I never got into it.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
David
okay.
Tennant. I've always been a big fan of David Tennant since I first saw him in the Doctor Who series. But I'm reading the book, and Neil Gaiman. A lot of times they do like a screen adaptation or whatever. So Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett wrote this series. It's a book, and they wrote it like in 1990 or published in 90. So they might have written it in like 88, 89, something like that. But they wanted to Neil Gaiman actually wrote the screen adaptation, so it follows along. And I watched the show first, and I'm reading the book, and I'm like, oh wow. It follows along very closely with the book.
Yeah.
And the way that it's so weird because I watched it first and I see the characters that they used in the film as the characters in the book. And so, it's really interesting because a lot of times you read the book first and then you see the movie.
Yes.
I've really never watched the movie and then read a book. I've never done that. This is the first time.
I gotcha.
But I just love it.
Well, see, I read a lot of shooting scripts, and the Joker shooting script I actually enjoyed better than the movie, which is so crazy, right? But it happens, and sometimes you read scripts and they're terrible, and these amazing actors pull these characters off that paper.
Yeah.
So it's just a whole process in itself. But do we want to talk about the only good thing that came out of that thing? that whole nightmare.
Dum
of
dum
making my-
dum. Of course, we want to hear.
I know.
Because I'm seeing lots of good out of it, but I want to hear what you feel like is
True. Finally, it really taught me a lot. I got to watch my film play at the Mann's Chinese Theater in Hollywood. It got into its first big festival.
Nice.
The Dances with Films Festival, which was a wonderful, wonderful independent filmmakers festival. And there was nothing cooler than sitting in this theater that has screened so many incredible movies that is like world famous, right? And here you are, and like your credits come up, and you hear the intro music, and and then it's the most magical thing. And that was, I think, the coolest moment in my life. And then when we did the Q&A afterwards, man, when we stopped that Q&A, when that audience bombed me, I was like, this is why I did this. They were like, what's your next project? What are you working on? No. And they just want to know, like, what else you're doing. It was the coolest moment of my life, man.
It's like a pinnacle.
And I'm not getting paid for it. And like I said, look, I get to create, and that's all that matters. You know what I mean? So to me, that's all that matters anymore.
It's so crazy that you say that, because I know exactly how that felt when I published my first book. Because I write for the Savannah Morning News as a freelance journalist. And seeing that little article the first time was like, oh, that's so, the novelty of it.
Right?
Same thing with the book. The first time I held my own book in my own hand, I was like, wow. And then last summer, I had a friend the same guy, Ryan Dunn, he was on the Travel Channel's World's Most Terrifying Places, and they filmed at Moon River, right?
Cool.
And they needed extras to play parts. And so I was like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And I sent my stuff over, and there were like 4 of us on this thing that we did like all the different roles or whatever. It was not a speaking role, but it was a reenactment role. So we were playing like all these different parts. And I got to play this one called James Stark. He was like one of the main characters in this story. And I had no idea. Like while we were filming, they were talking about it, but it was like, it didn't really click. And then I saw the show, I was like, oh my gosh, to see that like this role that I played was like one of the major roles for the story. Yeah. And just to see something like that. Yeah. That's the first time I ever did any acting.
Cool, yeah.
And it was so much fun to see that finished product.
There's so many layers to everything.
Yeah. And I really don't want to do acting, it's not really my gig. Yeah. But like I was talking before we did the thing earlier, my friend Jason Usry, he was just on the show not too long ago. He's got a podcast, but he had a movie that came out last summer called Deadwater. That's the guy I was telling you I want to introduce you to, and definitely want you to meet. But I was talking to him about a script idea that I had. And, obviously I didn't want to talk about it on air, just like, you don't want to talk about your project on air, which there's a reason for that, folks. It's not because I want to be snobby. Yeah. It's just more of, there are people out there that will steal your stuff, and not really think twice about it. Yep. And there are a lot of people out there that have more resources and things like that. Connections. Yeah. But maybe they don't have that idea and they want to,
or the passion.
Right. So, but it was so cool to talk to him. And, I know different folks that are in acting and, film production and stuff like that. And I think it's so much fun because to me, everything goes back to the story. Everything is the story. Like, when you're talking about you're making the film, you're talking about the story of the film and then the story about making the film. Yeah. It all goes back to that story. Yep. And we all have a story to share.
Yeah. Oh my God, for sure.
We all have things that we want to do in life, and especially creative people. And when I say creative people, I think everybody has the imagination. Not everybody uses it.
True.
And creative people are the folks that not only use their imagination, but they make things.
Yes.
And it's really cool when you have an idea and you're like, I made this a real thing.
Well, it's all spaghetti. Listen, it's all like spaghetti, right? You take the pieces. Because I have so many things. I've come up with great titles to and people are like, why don't you make that into a thing? And it's like, dude, there's only 24 hours in a day.
And resources.
Yeah,
and
right?
money and...
So it's like a piece of spaghetti. You just take that spaghetti, you throw it at the wall. You throw it at the wall until one of them sticks and you go, okay, I'm going to do this,
Yeah.
So that's it. That's all you keep doing. As long as you keep doing that, as long as I get my 30 minutes in a day, I'm not as angry. I'm not as like edgy. Like,
You just don't seem like an angry kind of person.
I don't seem like an angry kind of person.
No.
Oh my God, I totally am.
Are you?
Really? Man, it must be feigning my angry charm.
Oh, there you go. All right, you're listening to WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. This is the Adam Messer Show, and I'm your host, Adam Messer. My special guest today is Jennifer W. Long.
Yeah.
Actor, screenwriter, producer, did all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
You like have. So, what tour company do you work for?
Hearse, Ghost Tours.
Oh, okay.
Drive a hearse, tell ghost stories.
That's cool.
The coolest
That's
one.
pretty cool. Like the Munsters used to drive that hearse,
Oh,
right?
man. So cool. I wish we had the
Yeah.
Monsters car.
That would be really neat.
Jeez, yeah, it would. That'd be
be so
real
cool.
expensive, too.
Yeah. I want to talk about something
Yes.
that I actually talking about projects or whatever. So I know we just met
Yes.
recently, and then
Yeah.
this is the first time we've had a chance to kind of talk and get to know
Totally.
each other. But when I was talking about that little children's book project,
Mm-hmm.
the Savannah Quill. You see this on my sweatshirt?
Yes. I was wondering the whole time I've been sitting here, and I'm like, the
Yeah.
Savannah Quill. What's
That's me
that?
and my friends, and it's the Savannah Quill. It is a thing that I started to connect writers and readers for remote literacy here in Savannah.
Cool.
And I hosted a couple of conventions. I've done like a bunch of Meet the Author events.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2018, hosted Books and Brews, which I partner with Southbound Brewing Company.
Oh, great.
And we raise funds for the Ronald McDonald Charities of the Coastal Empire.
Awesome.
So the Ronald McDonald House.
Got it.
And we raised like $500 last year.
Cool.
As you know, a way to have like Meet the Authors meets, the public, and we go out there. It's not really a book selling event. We sell books, but it's not really a book selling event. It's a fundraiser for the Ronald McDonald
Totally.
House. But I have launched a small publishing press called Valhalla Books. And it's because I told you I self-published, several books or whatever, but I wanted to put together a horror anthology, and it's called The Devil's Due.
Okay.
And it's about, like nothing ever is as it seems, right?
Yeah, right.
Nothing ever is. And it's about people that make unsavory deals with, a devil of sorts, and it never works out the way that they think it's going to work out. So I have like this group of like 10 authors, award-winning authors.
Cool.
There's some like new faces that, they haven't published, or, they're working on publishing. And so the Valhalla Books is my small press publishing house that I'm going to publish this book and my other books. And I'm actually working with an author publishing a separate book.
Awesome.
But we're going to be publishing horror and sci-fi and fantasy, maybe a little mystery or whatever, but mostly like fiction stuff.
Cool.
And so that's one of the things that I'm working on. And it's kind of like an evolution of, I wanted to separate the Savannah Quill, which is mostly nonprofit stuff, fundraiser events and things like that. I wanted to be able to separate that from like the publishing side, where it is going to be focused on, selling books and, those kind of things.
Got it.
So I'm still going to be doing the Books and Brews. I'm still going to be like, I have the Savannah Authors Expo that I'm going to be doing this fall with the Savannah Coffee Roasters.
Oh, awesome.
So still going to be doing that, but I wanted to tell everybody, that I've got this Valhalla Books, and I picked Valhalla as a name because of a couple reasons. Because my last name is Messer, and I have Germanic heritage.
Okay.
And I was like, I've always loved Viking stuff,
Cool.
as a kid and as an adult or whatever. But it's recognizable. It's an interesting name, I think. And I wanted, like when you see like Random House or Penguin House or whatever, it has like their own little logo or whatever. That's what I wanted to do, but I wanted to be able to separate like the nonprofit stuff from like, trying to, sell books or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
And I thought it'd be cool. And with the Valhalla Books, the goal is to share enthralling stories that, so that, people can love to read again.
Yeah. Oh God, I love bookstores.
Yeah.
Oh God, they're so magical.
Well, we're not going to do a retail side of it. We're gonna it's going to be a publishing house. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be publishing books.
Cool. Yeah. Of course, that's
I
what
want
I
to show you a
assumed.
picture.
But I'm just saying, I love me some bookstores.
Oh, I do too. I love East Shavers right
Yeah,
down the
me
street
too.
here. They are
Me
like
too.
really awesome. Actually, my books are over there.
The book lady's cool too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. They are wonderful people over there as well.
Yep.
This is the logo.
Oh, awesome! It's very like
Little dragon.
chromatic dragony, like
No,
not that
chromatic
but
dragon,
not,
but it's a dragon.
yeah.
But yeah, I
Very Asian martial arts.
I like it because it's like it's a dragon, and like if you think about Viking ships,
Yes,
the longboats, they a lot of times they had a dragon's head.
Of course.
So, and that would terrify the folks that are about the village raid and plunder. So anyway, that's like my little announcement of
That's
the project that I'm
cool.
working on, and that book's going to be coming out in May.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, when are you going to be putting out your?
My things when the gods think it is the time. I've been working on the second project. I've lived through it for a good decade. See, the things with me is I write things that have happened to me.
Yeah, yeah,
My
I think
life
it's
has
so
been
awesome,
pretty
too, when-
crazy. Man, if I could only, I wish I could tell you the story of the next. I just can't. I wish I
Well,
could.
we'll do a follow-up after it's done.
For sure. And it's such a crazy cool story. That my little gypsy mom, gypsy-esque witchy mom, kind of cursed me with. But God, it's a cool thing. It's living through it was a big thing. So, you got to pick up all the pieces of your puzzle. And once I got my last piece, it was like, okay, now race to the finish line, But I mean, I've got so many
Have you written the script?
It's 80% of it of the first draft is done right now.
Nice.
But I'm such a picky, crazy person that it's probably only going to take us 2 drafts to finish it anyways.
I'll tell you something I want to share about that, like perfectionism. I was a perfectionist forever and a day.
And I'm proud of my perfectionism.
It is, and that's good too because it distinguishes you from other folks.
Yeah, I'm really particular about detail, man. It's all about detail for me. All about detail.
I had a change of heart. After I used to work at a college working with students, and so like you have the upper echelon of completers, people that are the doers.
Yes.
And then like most people fall in that like 80% range. Most folks are not going to be like the ultimate go-getters.
Yeah.
And, we're not the Michael Jordans of the world. You know what I mean?
No.
Like if you think of like Michael Jordan being like the best of his time of the game, most people are going to be, like they're going to be good enough to be on the team, but they're not going to be like
The
at
legend.
his level.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like, like the averages or whatever. Right. So I was like, I would have this hesitation. I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about me in person. I would have this hesitation of like, I want this to be perfect. I want this to be perfect. And one day I was like, what's better than perfect? I asked myself that. I was like, what's better than perfect? Done. Getting it done.
Yeah, perfection. Listen, nobody's perfect, so why bother? But you also don't want to put out a product that is
No,
not.
you don't.
You want to
That's
come
why I
out
was
of
saying
that gate
it's not a
strong.
counter to what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's for me because I had a problem with procrastination because I wanted it to be so perfect. And now what I do is I still want it to be perfect. I still want it to be like that, like upper echelon of things. But at some point I'm like, okay, is this good enough to put out? And is it a progression? Like, is it an improvement of what I've been doing?
Yeah.
And is it a progression?
Yeah.
Because I'm never going to get to that level where I feel like it's perfect.
See, I know when something's done.
Yeah.
Like I do.
Yeah.
And
That's something I had to struggle with.
Yeah.
I really did.
I get it. But I know when it's like, okay, I'm done. I'm not touching it anymore.
And that's a talent that, that's a skill set that is hard for me. Like, I've had to really work on that particular skill set.
Well, here's a perfect think about this next time. My friend Cindy, she talks about the Good Enough Club, right? She's like, have you heard about the Good Enough Club? I was like, what's the Good Enough
I
Club?
wanna hear
She
this.
goes, she's great. It's so funny because she's a great woodworker here in town. And
Yeah.
she's like, when we were building
It's not
my
Cindy
desk.
Mail by chance, is it?
No,
Okay.
Cindy Hartness Crane. It's
Okay.
can I say her name?
you
Sure.
can.
She's like, yay. She was like, have you heard about the Good Enough Club? Well, the Good Enough Club is like where you get to the point where you look at something and you're like, is it good enough? And you're like, where you can't fix with it anymore. You've messed with it enough. You've wasted all that time and energy where you're like, okay, that's good enough.
That's kind of like the same premise
It's
between, what's better than perfect and it's done.
Yeah.
Getting it done.
Yeah.
We have like 1 minute left.
Ooh.
So where can people check out your stuff?
You know what? I guess you can find me on Instagram, and if you Google Jennifer W. Long, the trailer will come up to Paper Planes.
I shared the link to your YouTube thing.
That's cool. That's cool.
So.
It's there, and that's it. Other than that, I hide away in my house, man. I'm one of those people who, until it's time for to be out in the public eye again, and then I'll disappear in the trees one day in Hawaii somewhere. When
there
I
you
can.
go. That'd be awesome.
Plan.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, so much for
Thank
being on the
you
show today.
so
it's been a lot of fun.
Yes.
I'm definitely gonna have to invite you back because I've had a lot of fun talking with you.
Yes.
So everybody listening, thank you so much. Up next are the Savannah at Night crew with Bill Cooper and the gang, and we're gonna play some music on the way out.